If you have wheat in your cereal, do you have to get rid of it, or is only food that is baked? Okay.
Good question.
If you have it made out of matzah, this is the deal, and we have to get a little rabbinic on this. There is understanding within Judaism that when you make matzah, from the moment that the water hits the flour, you have 18 minutes to get it pressed out and in the oven, because that's how long it takes. I think 18 has something to do with the 18, for 18 represents life. My name is Chaim, and that Chai, the 18 in Hebrew, my name means life. So it's 18 represents that until 18 minutes, there is no life in the bread. And so when you get kosher for Passover matzah, if you can believe it, there's such a thing as non-kosher for Passover matzah, which means they didn't have the stricture of whatever that word is, getting it into the oven within 18 minutes. Now, is it really 18? I don't know, but there is wild occurring yeast in the air all the time. Sure. And once you grind the flour, and especially once you put water to it, it's going to start the fermentation process. But Rabbinic Judaism has determined that until you hit 18 minutes, it still hasn't done enough or any or whatever so that you can still eat it. Now, most likely, the cereal in your cabinet was not kosher for Passover stricture unless it's frosted matzah flakes. So
unless
do they make such a thing?
If it says
kosher for Passover, but generally that's going to be because it doesn't have a grain in it that is considered one of the grains. Now, again, that's even rabbinic. You could even decide that the rabbis have it wrong and you need to be even more strict than they are, and that would be something to check into. I know soon after I became a believer and started getting back into the Jewish, I had given up basically everything. I'm first or second year, I thought I cleaned up from it. I'm in my kitchen eating a bowl of cereal like bachelors very often do, just catching a meal in the kitchen. And I'm reading the box and it says it has yeast in it. And I was like, and trying to decide what to, spit it out where. Yes, there's yeast in grape nuts. So what is a grape nut? Who knows? But there's yeast in it. Look at all the labels. Again, if you weren't here before, we said autolyzed yeast extract is another name for MSG. So it brings death. So Torah says not to eat that ever, but it doesn't seem to break the Passover leavening type of yeast. But most likely your cereal doesn't. And, check the label and get rid of it. But we get rid of, let's see.
Anything that says yeast.
Anything that says yeast, for sure. We've toyed back and forth with pasta because the thing is the pasta is made quickly, but it is water with flour, and did yeast get in, but yet it didn't have time to ferment it. At least you wouldn't want it, but maybe it could. And it's pretty much rabbinically, I believe completely, that's forbidden because it has flour with water. We've gone back and forth on that, I'll admit. What else have we?
Cereals that have flour in them, which is really what the question was, because you don't know how long between when that flour was put together with the other ingredients.
Now also, here's something: we bake our own bread. We have sacks of.
We also make our own granola,
and we make our own granola. But that's not what I was bringing this up. We grind our own grain right before we make bread. When the grain is complete and it's in the husk and it hasn't been ground, we don't consider it that you're able to do it. So we don't plan. You have to correct us. We're not getting rid of our yeast, but
we're not getting rid of our
excuse me, it's getting late, wheat. Folks. I'm sorry. We're not getting rid of our wheat grain, but any that we have ground into flour
ahead of time,
but it's in our grain grinder, it's in our freezer because we had some leftover. We get rid of that because we don't know, since it has left the whole grain wheat and moved into the flour state, even though as far as we know, it hasn't gotten wet. We didn't introduce any grain into it. We got it into the freezer generally within like 5 minutes of grinding it. We don't know. So we are going to clean up completely, but we're not planning to get rid of anything that hasn't been made with a kind of flour or is in a state of flour. And that's our story, and we're sticking with it.
Right. And now if I ever got industrious to attempt to make fresh matzah, I wouldn't hesitate to do so long as I fresh ground and made it immediately, but didn't have flour sitting around. I've never. It's a dream.